So here's a lesson that is looking at species at risk and conserving biodiversity. We've talked about this over the course of the unit, and specifically on the Wrigley's field trip, biodiversity came up over and over again. Last lesson we discussed limiting factors, and if some limiting factors increase in an ecosystem, then the population of some species may decrease. Okay, so if limiting factors go up, the number of certain species, populations will go down. And in many cases, the decline in biodiversity is due to human impact. And so we've seen this with several examples throughout this unit. Conservation biologists, which Levi is one, that's one of his main jobs. They're scientists who assess which species are most in danger of extinction, and then they develop strategies to protect them. So this completely plays into the work that Levi is doing right now with the Blandings turtle and developing systems and mechanisms for helping them to be able to nest. At-risk species, though, are native species that are in danger of becoming extinct or disappearing from a region. And so there's some different levels of risk, and we're going to talk about what those different levels of risk are, and we'll give an example of each. So the highest level of risk, you'll notice that this column is increasing. So at the highest level of risk, we have extirpated. And what that means, the definition of that, is a species that no longer exists in Canada, but could perhaps exist elsewhere. Okay. An example of this is the black-footed ferret. And the reason why it no longer exists in Canada was because of limited access to habitat and to prey. Okay. Next down on the level of risk are endangered species. So endangered species are a species that faces extinction or extirpation. So this is the Blandings turtle that we talked about, an example of that. It's an endangered species in Ontario. Another example is the blue whale. Okay, the reason why the blue whale is endangered is of course because of whaling, because they've been hunted, collisions with big ships, pollution in the ocean, and of course becoming tangled in fishing lines. A threatened species is the next level down, and this is a species that is at risk of becoming endangered if some of the limiting factors that we've noticed are not reversed. The Peregrine Falcon is an example of this. Okay, the Peregrine Falcon, just like the reading that we read, is very, very prone and susceptible to the biomagnification of pesticides. It's also experienced loss of habitat. Okay. The last level is special concern, and this is any species that has characteristics that make it sensitive to human impact. They would be of special concern. So, you know, they're species that we need to be careful with because they're sensitive species and they're especially sensitive to human impact. So an example of this is the climbing prairie rose. It's experienced loss of habitat. ATVs present a problem for this species of plant, and there's many competitive species. And so for these reasons, we would say, okay, well, this is of special concern, so we need to make sure that some of these limiting factors are not reversed. Okay, so we need to make sure that they're reversed, excuse me. An extinct species is a species that no longer exists anywhere in the biosphere. Okay, we can think of probably many examples of extinct species. A common one And a more modern one is the passenger pigeon. So what are some of the strategies that we have for conserving? Well, first, a treaty that was signed by 161 countries that included Canada. Um, Basically, a group of these countries came together with one of their goals was to conserve Earth's biodiversity, right? So two strategies that this convention used were, okay, we want to protect species in zoos, and that's okay as far as it goes, but more importantly, we want to protect species in their natural habitat through the control of pollution, predators, and the creation of provincial parks. Okay. In Canada, we also have the Endangered Species Act. That's an Ontario law that prohibits killing, capturing, selling, or trading species that are endangered in Ontario. The law also protects their habitats, and this is some of the stuff that Levi used to talk about, that you can get into a lot of trouble if you kill something that's endangered, or if you sell pelts, or if you are found to be killing or capturing endangered species. Really, really stiff fines for this kind of behavior. Those are the conservation strategies currently that we have, and these are, you know, some of the things that we need to talk about when you think about species at risk.